Welcome to the IronWill podcast. I'm your host, Ravi Sandhu, and today we'll be speaking to Joe Buchoff, founder of Dating Unchained, an IronWill legend.
I realized it was up to me. I had to be the one moving the needle every single day. And if I didn't move the needle, it wasn't going to happen. With Ravi, actually, you helped me a ton with this. I had this sort of like I had a system. I was starting to create a system before I worked with you, but I was maybe 70% consistent at it, maybe less, maybe 60 to 70%. We just distilled the things I was doing down to what actually matters, right? Because some of the stuff I was doing I thought mattered but didn't. We're like, what actually moves the needle? Where are you actually getting your leads? Where are people actually finding out about you? And what can you do every day to move the needle a little bit more that you can commit to every single day and never miss a day and be okay with that amount of work? Right. We created a to-do list that I can get done. Like, I have so much free time. I can get the to-do list done in like a fucking hour. Right. I end up doing more, and that's the power of what you do, because you've done all the work on how to become at first a project manager for 7 years, and then you've learned how to apply that to people's lives, right? And so I want to throw you some gold here, because you've done a really good job at helping me organize my life so I can go from 60 to 70% consistent to now 90 to 100% consistent every single week. And I'm able to push the needle more consistently. Like, since I've worked with you, my business has 70%. My business has almost doubled since I've worked with you. And it's on a continuously upward trajectory, and it's consistent. Like, on the week to week, it's not consistent, but on the month to month, like, I'm making pretty much like around the same amount, and it's growing. So it's like, that's the power that being consistent has.
IronWill
And so that,
Tribe, we are with one of the IronWill legends today. We're actually here with Joe. Joe is one of the world's, would you believe, leading photographers in his specialism, which is for dating, for helping men and women alike build an excellent romantic life of abundance, connection, intimacy, and joy. Joe has been on a hell of a journey. I previously recorded an episode with him documenting Joe's remarkable commitment to himself and his goals and objectives, and some of the quite incredible transformation that he's underwent as a person, and how he embodies so many of the core principles of Iron Will. Now I've had the opportunity to work with Joe for quite a while. He has been one of the most consistent human beings out there on planet Earth, and was an absolute joy to work with. I've been able to see his journey from the start of his inception, of thinking about, hey, I'm really good with this. I'm extremely interested in the arts and creativity, and people tell me I'm really good with this camera of mine, to now he's become pretty much one of the best in the world at what he does, and has the client results to prove it. Joe, how are you doing out there today?
fucking great, dude. First of all, thanks for the glowing introduction. It's hard to believe sometimes how far
Oh,
I've come. And I just got a wake up call from a mentor of mine, a former mentor of mine, named George Katz. We were on a call, we were working on a collaboration together, and he was like, "Yo, you're the best in the world at this." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "No, yeah, like, just it's okay to own it. Like, you're really good." And I'm like, "People keep telling me this, and this, but like, I don't want to say that I'm the best and, one of the best." And he's like, "You are. Just fucking say it." So I've been allowing myself to be a little less humble about my work.
yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's really nice to be where I'm at. I don't know if you watched the other episode, but if you have, you'll know where I've come from. And if you haven't, I'm sure Ravi would love the extra view hours on his YouTube
Oh
channel.
yeah.
But it's a good journey, and so, hopefully it'll inspire you, because I've been lower than a lot of people have, and now I'm higher than a lot of people have. And Robbie's 100% right in his approach. Consistency is key. And this is just a testament to the kind of things that Robbie teaches.
Your particular journey is one that, to see it unfold, is fascinating, because we understand a lot of these things in theory. We understand that if you show up for long enough, you build enough of a brand, you get enough client results, eventually you're top of mind. Now, here's the curious thing. I see this in my life. When someone asks, hey, who's good at photography? There's 10 other guys that are like, this guy can help you. And there is the website, Dating Unchained.
Hmm.
When someone has like the most complex and like unusual request, not too long ago, someone was partially sighted. Well, who do we know
Hmm.
who could potentially help? Joe is going to be able to deal with this. He's dealt with every other sort of inquiry you can throw his way with every sort of person. He's been around the world. We just don't know anyone better. And how fascinating to see that you started this just off a vision a couple years ago, man. And you, like you say, like you rightly allude to, did you had some challenges, to put it mildly, which is why your success and everything you accomplish moving forward, it cannot happen to a more deserving human being. You deserve every positive outcome you get, Joe. You worked your ass off. You sacrificed a lot. You had such strength of mind and conviction to not give in, because there's many moments where I wouldn't have even blamed you for throwing in the towel. It's fucking remarkable, dude. But this is why we can now give some inspiration to the people. So to kind of paint a picture, Joe, the first question I'm going to ask you is for you to take us back and help us understand, how long have you been running your business now?
Sure. Apologies for the little mix up earlier. I just had a little technical difficulty, but that has been dealt with. Um, I I'm grateful for you sharing that. It's definitely been a journey for me. Um, and I'll allude a little bit to the backstory here, but that's mostly been shared in the other episodes. So I'll go into more of like what can I do to inspire you, actual mechanics of how I did back engineering, because I did a lot of it on purpose, but some of it was just based on my propensities towards something. And then some of it I can back engineer or like I did on purpose, so I can tell you what I did. But I think one huge thing is this is a testament to um, wanting something so deeply that I didn't care what obstacles I had to go through. Um, and that because when I first started out, I actually started trying to be an entrepreneur in college, which was about 6 years before I started Dating Unchained. I I knew my end goal was to be an entrepreneur because I'm a huge lover of freedom and having abundance in my life, and I decided the best path for me was being an entrepreneur. Some people will get the same thing with a coding job, for instance. In America, coding jobs, it's the market's changing, but you can still make six figures easily with a coding job with not much work per week. Some people do it like an entrepreneur, like me, they build a business. So depending on, the path can be different, but I chose entrepreneurship when I was in college, and I would throw things at the wall. I would network with people. I decided to go out and meet people and talk to as many people as I could. Whenever there was a talk with somebody who was successful at college, I would, right after they finished, I would go up and talk to them and connect with them. And because I just realized, I decided that famous people, successful people are just people. And so I was like, everyone else is nervous to talk to this person that's up on stage. I'm just going to be that person that doesn't give a shit and is just going to go up to them and talk to them as if they're a person and connect with them. And so I was able to network really well that way, just by that belief, you know? And, um, and so I would talk to successful people. I would throw things at the wall. I knew that I wanted to do something that had to do with art because I loved art since I was pretty much an infant. Um, as a kid, I had a lot of tumultuous emotions. The reasoning behind that are multitudes, but I had a lot of tumultuous emotions, and art would calm me down. So art has always been a passion for me in my life, a very deep passion. I crave it. I need it. I need to have that creative expression. So I wanted to make my money doing something artistic. And so I just threw stuff at the wall, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so I failed and I failed. I lost all my money and went deeper into debt for about 6 years until finally, and we can dive deeper into parts of that journey because this is, we've dove into it before, but like the actual parts of it that I can say to help you guys. Eventually I picked up a camera because I was lonely and I wasn't getting results on dating apps. I had studied a bunch of different dating gurus. I had worked with a few of them one-on-one, and I had success in my dating life. Approaching women became easy for me. It's a thing I can turn on and off. I talked to a really beautiful woman this morning at the gym. So like approaching women became super easy for me. And online dating, what I was getting matches, I was getting results, but it wasn't the results that I wanted. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to. I was working with Andy from Kill You're Gonna Loser at the time, and he had a guide of which camera to get, which lens, and how to take dating profile photos. And I was like, you know what? I didn't even have the money. I just put it on one of those lease to own programs. And it's funny because if you pay it off in 3 months, you get it's same as cash pretty much. But if you take longer than 3 months, the price doubles and you just pay that off over a year. So like the key is like you pay it off in 3 months, and I didn't. So my first camera was it was new, and then it was double that price. And in my mind, I told myself, I didn't think of it as a business. I was like, you know what? I just want to make my money back for the equipment that I bought. And let's say it was like $2,500 for everything, even though it was like $1,000 camera and like a $200 lens. It was like $2,500 for everything put together. I was like, you know what? All I want to do is make my money back. And so I would take photos. I was like, let me get good at myself. Let me like do a bunch of free shoots for other people. Frankly, I sucked, but it was free, so it's okay. And eventually people started asking me for money, and I took all the failures from the first 6 years of trying to be an entrepreneur, and then also working with business coaches. I flew to Lithuania when I had zero money and like all on debt, and I actually got the ticket in illegally. I won't tell you how or who helped me, but the way I got the ticket was I didn't pay for it. Nobody heard that. Allegedly. But so I got to Lithuania. I would took out a $5,000 loan that I didn't pay back and was charged off in order to go to Lithuania. Like I was that broke person living on the streets, or like being homeless. I was living on the streets only for a few days, but to be clear, but I was homeless for 2 years because I knew entrepreneurship was the thing for me, and I didn't give a shit what came in the way. I was going to get through it no matter what. That was a decision I made because of the conviction I had that this was the way I wanted to go. So I mean, I know I jumped around a lot there, but I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, Joe, that is. I'm going to dive into a lot more because your story is just freaking phenomenal. It's so interesting to me, and I think we want to do you justice because we know this is really just the beginning for you. We do understand where you're going. You're on a serious trajectory to do some quite amazing things in this world, and at this moment, I really want to do credence to your journey. And what's particularly interesting about what you share there is you have I gave you the name the Unbreakable Man because during our process and working with you, you were unbelievably consistent, man. You showed up every problem that would come. There were some tough times we had to get through. There was times where you were really concerned about rent. There was times where you had to find ways to make ends meet. I remember many difficult times were extremely stressed.
Mm-hmm.
But to your credit, you're extremely logical, extremely rational, mature, understood how to deal with your emotions. You very well versed in inner work, and very well versed in healing. You knew what to do to put yourself together in a way to really bring your best self and show up for yourself. We solved the problems together when they would come up. And after a certain point, we started to see the fruits of that labor. But I do want to highlight for people who might at one point encounter you and see you getting the recognition and receiving the rewards that I do, who may not understand some of the really challenging times of this journey. So, talk to us about as you're building the business and as you've accumulated a lot of lessons. How was it like at the start? Were clients fairly inconsistent? Was income fairly inconsistent? What was that process like for you?
Sure. Yeah, I didn't pay my bills until a year and a half into making this business. I was taking out loans to pay the bills, and then also using my credit cards, as well as I would do gig economy to make ends meet and borrow money from friends. Like I was not making ends meet for a year and a half. There was actually a moment where I was frustrated. You know, our friend Cameron, our friend
Yeah.
Radical from
Hmm.
Radical Improvements, the YouTube channel. He actually helps me. First of all, he helps me with my fashion. If you like this is one of, all of this was, except for the smartwatch. He hates smartwatches. That's not approved by him. Everything else is approved by him. Um, but he so I had gone to meet him. He booked a shoot for me, but before he was coming up to Austin for our shoot, he was spending time in Mexico, and I'm in Austin, which is close, like a 4 or 5 hour drive from the border. And so I booked a bus to Monterrey, which is like a 9 hour drive, and met him there. I spent a week there, and I met Cameron. I hung out with him for a week, and during that week, I was debating. I'm like, should I quit? Should I just spin up a side business that would grow quicker? What should I do? Dating profile photography is not making ends meet. I was making maybe like anywhere from 500 to 1,000, 2,000 on the best month. And my expenses, because I'm not great at budgeting, my expenses are about 5,000 a month here in Austin, which is, if I do what I want and eat out when I want, I spend 5,000, 6,000 a month. If I really tried, I could probably bring that down to 3,000, but I'd rather go on the offensive and just make more money. I'd rather make 3,000 more than save 3,000, by doing extra work. But anyway, the point is, I wasn't making ends meet, and the business wasn't growing like I wanted it to grow. So I talked with him, and I sat with myself, and I came to realize that if I spun out like 3 or 4 other businesses, which I already started the the Instagram accounts for at the time, I was already starting on that path. I'm just going to split myself up. And our mutual mentor, Andy, he talks about going all in, and that's it's a key of his. And you also talk about having 2 main goals maximum. And if I had 4, and then on top of that, my physique and my dating at the time, it didn't make any sense. Like I wasn't going to be successful at any of it. Maybe if I built one up and then put that on autopilot, and then built another one up, put that on autopilot, that would work. But I hadn't even built one up. I was doing these because I was doing these to fill in a void. Like I was just kind of desperate. And I realized what I needed to do was I needed to focus on one. And dating profile photography at the time had gotten me a client a month, maybe 2, sometimes 0. And I wasn't charging as much as I charge now. But there was enough promise there that I was like, you know what? I'm going to gamble on this. I'm going to decide to go all in. And if I don't get anything, I don't get anything. But I'm at least going to try this for a certain period of time. Went back to Austin. I closed the other accounts, stopped working on these other businesses that I was trying to build to fill in a void, and I went all into dating profile photography because I saw there was an MVP there. People were paying me and were happy for it. I wanted to charge more. I wanted more clients, but at least there was the seed there that could grow. Don't go all in necessarily to something that you don't know is going to work, but I knew this was going to work because I saw the seed there and I took a gamble, right? And when I went back to Austin, I actually still needed to make ends meet because, of course, it takes time. So I ended up contacting a competitor of mine in Austin who I knew was looking for an extra photographer. And I was like, hey, are you still looking for a photographer? Because they'd reached out to me in January. And in January, they were like, hey, we want, this was not this January. I didn't tell you the month. This was a few months before I went down to Mexico. They reached out to me a few months before I went down to Mexico and was like, hey, do you want to work for us? By the way, you would have to work for us and not have any clients on the side. And so I was like, I don't want my business to stagnate. Like, that's not going to help. So at the time I said no. But then I was like, you know what? I might as well do this. I'll get experience, I'll get money, and then I'll come back to my business. And yeah, momentum will have stagnated, but I will have grown. So I told them, I'm like, hey, like my business isn't going as well as I want it to go. Your business is going great. Do you still need a photographer? I've reevaluated it. I'm happy to do what you. So we actually, we do need somebody, and we've also reconsidered the, that bit. We've reconsidered the part where we don't want you to do any other things. So you're able to have your own clients, and you can work with us, and we'll pay you X amount per shoot, which was a lot less than I wanted, but I would get more experience and I would be able to make the ends meet. So I went all in on that. I still had some clients on the side. I was making more on my business, which is funny because I was making a lot with them, and then my business also grew during the time at the same time. So because I was still posting for my business, but they were getting me to do Cool. So my Wi-Fi cut out there for a moment, but I'll continue where I left off. I was still working on my business. It was growing while I was getting experience with them, and I did with them. They worked me pretty hard. I did 5 to 8 shoots a week for them for about 4 months. So I was able to rack up a bunch of shoots, and we did a ramp up. It ended up being 48 shoots to get all together in many different cities. I gained a lot of experience because at the time before them, I think I'd done maybe 20 shoots on my own in the year, little over a year that I had been in business. Um, and so, 20 shoots is good, but it's not like amazing. And so I had a lot to learn. So adding like 50 shoots to that really helped me grow very quickly. Um, and I filled up my bank accounts. I was able to pay off some debts, pay all my rent on time. And then we parted ways. There's a disagreement, which a lot of it was my fault, to be quite honest. But we parted ways, and then I went all into my business. And because now I had all the experience, I was able to grow my business pretty quickly. The next month, or the same month that we had parted ways, I was still able to pay my bills. And then for every month after that, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, I was able to pay my bills with my business. And sometimes it was even double or more times my expenses.
Mm. You see, this is where the story gets really interesting because like you said there, you had a year and a half where you were struggling to make ends meet. You decide to go all in. You did, I mean, during that time frame, you went really hard, dude.
Mm-hmm.
48 shoots, like 4 shoots a week.
More than 4 a
That's
week.
yeah, man.
Because, well, I mean, at first there were less, and then there became more at the end because they ramped me up. But
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
lot though, right? That's a lot.
yeah.
Like so you were going at it full tilt. So just the sheer focus, the absolute dedication in that whole time frame that leveled you up
Mm-hmm.
a lot as a photographer, that enabled you to develop your skill sets. And we understand the kind of shoots that you can do now and the sort of client results that you can obtain. Now we're getting Joe at his level of like really refined, cutting edge experience that's been through so many shoots. That's been
Mm-hmm.
through this, at the cutting edge of that, right? And then
I've done more than double the amount with the match artist on my own. Like I mean, not on my own, but I've done. So I did 50 with them. I counted recently. I am 142 and 143. I have to look at the count again, but I'm over 140 at this point. Um, I've been saying 140 for like a few months. It goes estimate, and at that time I was actually like 120 maybe. So it was an accident. I was given the wrong number, but I'm actually over 140 now. I've helped over 140 guys get more matches and more dates. And yeah, one thing, and I want to go back to you, but one thing that I learned from that experience of being humble and being like, you know what, I'm not getting the leads I want. I just want experience, and I'm okay taking less money. Do you need me? And first of all, I was expecting them to say no, but they said yes, and I humbled myself for a few months to just be able to get those shoots under my belt. And what I learned from that is it's okay to take a shortcut. That was just working smart. Like, you don't always have to do the hardest thing if there's a better option. Obviously, don't 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 just do something easy because you don't want to do the hard thing. Like I was willing to do the hard thing if I needed to, but this was a quicker path. And again, it was actually wasn't really easier because it was a lot of work for me. It was just the work. It was just I would be able to skip a step, and that step was how to get leads. I would be able to skip that step, work with leads from the other company, and then in the end, I would have all the experience and be paid to learn. So yeah, I don't think it's bad to take a shortcut. Just make sure that shortcut is actually a shortcut, and it's not you just taking the easy route.
I think anyone who undergoes the challenge of entrepreneurship really must be given full credit and putting it into context. Like, what is a shortcut for someone who's an entrepreneur, really? There's no free lunch in this game. This game requires us to get real results and to deliver real value to the world and solve problems and add value to lives. It involves us having to show up. It involves us having to be all in. It involves us having to like put our heart and soul on the line, undergo hardships, undergo the difficult years. Entrepreneurship is rife with stories of sacrifice, of dedication, of people who couldn't pay the bills for years, of people who had to sleep in their office for years. We really must put it into context. When you say shortcut, Joe, you dedicated yourself, you put everything on the line for what you've built now. It's akin to reading a book or getting a coach or getting a mentor or hiring a trainer or hiring a nutritionist. People who are winners invest in themselves. People who are winners, they work smart. They follow pathways that lead to success. Look at the greatest performers of all time. Like at his peak, Michael Jordan had like 14 coaches for everything, all sorts of different things, right?
Mm.
Because success leaves clues. When we are serious about our outcomes, we don't just leave it to chance. An area like this, we don't leave to chance. So
Mhm.
we do find ways to win. And as you rightly allude to, because you are serious about what you're looking to accomplish, you did what was necessary for your business to develop and grow. Now, there is another chapter that emerges once you've honed your skills, got really good at your craft, undeniably, right? I can say that wholeheartedly because you've worked with a lot of my friends and I know what kind of transformation has happened in their life, and I'm just glad that people I care about have been able to experience abundance. Um, Now you then are at the driver's seat once again. Now it's on you. Now it is on you to get leads. Now it's on you to build the brand, move everything forward, and for you to be successful. Okay. Now you've got more client results now. You are demonstrating to that to the world. Over the course of working with yourself, there's wins that are coming, right? But what precipitated those things? What's different now that you've got your experience and you're sort of going on this second lap? Can you help us understand what you're bringing into the second phase?
Sure. Yeah. So this started over a year ago, about a year and a half. And so I'm well into the second phase. I often forget that I worked about my experience with them. It's just been ingrained inside me. It's not something I think about right now just because it affected me and it helped me a ton. And I'm very grateful for them for working with me and trusting me. That was over a year and a half ago, or over a year and a half ago. So since then, I could not, I had to rely on myself to get leads. I had to rely on myself to attract customers, to build a brand. And I had to put the work in every single day, not just for the photography, because if I could sit back and then rely on them getting the leads and their marketing and their sales, that's what I was doing, right? And they would just give me leads and I would just work with them. But now I have to do all the things that I relied on them for. I have to be the one to build a brand. I have to be the one to create content. I have to be the one to put that out in the world. If I don't do it, it's not done. Um, I do work with a few people here and there to help me out, but I'm this right now. I'm pretty much a solopreneur. I'm the one responsible for everything. So I can take an off day whenever I want, but that means I'm not going to be moving the needle that day and nothing's going to happen. And I might not get a paycheck. There's a phrase I like to say to people when people are like, oh, whoops. There's a phrase I like to say to people when people are um, like you're an entrepreneur. That's so awesome. Like, okay, as an entrepreneur, there's no ceiling. And I say this to just kind of make it realistic because entrepreneurship's not for everyone. And I think sharing the downsides is important. So it's realistic. There's no there's no ceiling to what you can make as an entrepreneur, especially in America where it's built for small businesses. And even overseas, you can still work with the regulations that are there and make pretty much anything you want to make. Now, there's no ceiling, but there's also no floor. You can put time and effort and energy and money for years and lose it all. And then if somebody sues you, lose even more. So it's like there's no ceiling, but there's no floor. And I was thinking about it. I like did a deep thought of like philosophically, is it possible to have no ceiling but still have a floor? And I came to the conclusion, and maybe I'm wrong, but I came to the conclusion that if you want no ceiling, you have to have no floor. And I could go through the thought process, but you can maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm not 100% confident on that answer. But to be able to take off the ceiling and make as much money as you want, or anything really, want to have as much as abundant a sex life as you want, as awesome as a physique as you want. There's no ceiling, but there's no floor. You could put in energy and then lose everything. But you can put in energy and make more than you've ever thought possible. So I realized it was up to me. I had to be the one moving the needle every single day. And if I didn't move the needle, it wasn't going to happen. And so I became with Ravi, actually, you helped me a ton with this. I had this sort of like I had a system. I was starting to create a system before I worked with you, but I was maybe 70% consistent at it, maybe less, maybe 60 to 70% consistent. I worked with you to create a to-do. I mean, more things, but one of the things that we created was a to-do list every single day of we distilled the things I was doing down to what actually matters, right? Because some of the stuff I was doing I thought mattered but didn't. We're like, what actually moves the needle? Where are you actually getting your leads? Where are people actually finding out about you? And what can you do every day to move the needle a little bit more that you can commit to every single day and never miss a day and be okay with that amount of work, right? You don't want to put too much work on your plate because it might feel good for a day or two, but on day 14, are you going to still be happy to do it, or are you just going to burn out and like not do it, right? So we created a to-do list that I can get done. Like I have so much free time. I can get the to-do list done in like a fucking hour, right? I end up doing more because but on my worst day where I'm fucking sick, I'm sneezing, I'm bedridden, I can do my to-do list in like maybe on that day it would be like 2 hours, but like I can do my to-do list and have a bunch of free time to like sleep and read and shit, when I'm super tired, or when I'm traveling for a shoot. Say I'm flying out for a shoot and then I have the shoot, which all my shoots, I stay with my clients for 5 hours and we go to at least 7 custom locations, right? That I customized to show their strengths. I still, even though I'm flying out in the morning and doing the shoot, I still have the time to make my to-do list happen. And that's the power of what you do, because you've done all the work on how to become at first a project manager for 7 years, and then you've learned how to apply that to people's lives, right? And so I want to throw you some gold here because you've done a really good job at helping me organize my life so I can go from 60 to 70% consistent to now 90 to 100% consistent every single week. And I'm able to push the needle more consistently. Like since I've worked with you, my business has gone up. This number is based on numbers, but it's not exact. I'm just doing it in my head. My business has gone up 30% consistently ish, something like that. And maybe up to 50, maybe up to, sorry, no, I guess that would count as 70%. My business has almost doubled since I've worked with you. And it's on a continuously upward trajectory, and it's consistent. Like on the week to week, it's not consistent, but on the month to month, like I'm making pretty much like around the same amount, and it's growing. So it's like that's the power that being consistent has. And so that, to go back to your question, what is my second phase like? My second phase is, how the hell do I manage myself? How the hell do I take the burden on myself to do this thing. Maybe 1 month something didn't go right. And I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? Right? What can I do right next month? Maybe I'm feeling super shitty one day and don't want to do anything. So it's like, okay, do I take an off day? Can I do a little bit? And maybe one day, like I'm feeling super like, I have to be the one. So it's been a journey in how do I take that responsibility and how do I actually move the needle and how do I actually be consistent? It's really been a journey of managing myself and then also being honest with myself about what's happening. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's just I guess to distill it down is how do I manage myself?
That's the core. Of course, thank you for your kind words, Joe.
Yeah,
And
sure.
you have been a shining case study of really the IronWill methodology, which I developed, as you know, from my career as a project manager, from having to deliver things to large audiences, or yeah, get into a lot of bother. So what I got really good at is how to get things done. It was a serious focus of mine for many years of my life, and I'm, as you know, avid self-improvement fanatic who thinks about performance and productivity and how to get consistent performance without suffering and actually have a joyful, balanced life. Spent 13 years thinking about this stuff, so I do know a thing or two. And as you have rightly kind of captured, it's an individual thing. It's about understanding yourself. That's really what accountability is. It's about actually pausing each day and asking ourselves questions like, okay, is this working for me? Is this moving the needle? Is this
Mm-hmm.
the right investment of time and energy? And understanding if something's not getting done, this is data. This is learning. This is insight. And then that
Mm-hmm.
is actually what allows us to peel back the layers of ourselves. Lovely
Mm-hmm.
quote, which I like to use, is from Carl Jung. Until we make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct our life and we'll call it fate.
I love that quote. Very true.
This is the thing that we saw with yourself as you continuously show up, right? And you gain more subject matter knowledge and you get more adept at your business and you become a better business person. You learn to manage yourself better. All your habits are on point, right? From working with myself, we ingrain certain things. We create a very supportive culture and community, and we give you space to process these ideas. And if you're taking care of yourself, if the habits and processes are in place, your exercise is there, your diet's there, your nutrition's there, your sleep's there, and you can show up in a sustainable way and you know what is important and what will move the needle, and you're living a balanced life, you've got your love, you've got your relationships, you're gonna win, you're gonna succeed, and you're gonna feel as if you're genuinely on a mission and building something, which is really now what we get to observe and witness from yourself. But this is a byproduct, to your credit, of a multiple year process of keeping the faith. That's one of the things that you're just remarkably strong at. You're remarkably strong at keeping the faith, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, even when times are difficult, and continuously adapting and course correcting. You've actually gotten better. Your content improved. Your skills have improved. Your just knowledge of business practices have improved. You're actually delivering to people progressively more and delivering progressively more impact the more you go along this. And I expect that will just continue. So the rewards that you're really getting now are simply a consequence of the value and problems that you've solved in the world. So rightly deserved, to be quite frank. But the when we're listening to you now, we're hearing a Joe who has a far deeper understanding of the game. He talks about managing himself. He talks about how he became a really effective implementer and executor. So it would be useful to now ask you about success. You, as I say, you were given the name the Unbreakable Man for a reason. You do have something remarkable about you, Joe, given your remarkable endurance and resilience, and of course, as we see
And my
there,
biceps.
and the biceps, which are quite impressive too. And they're putting me to shame because I need to work on those. But your your ongoing um your ongoing commitment to your project and the sort of vigor with which you pursue it, it's definitely to be commended. But in terms of like where you are as an entrepreneur now, right? Context is, yeah, 6 years prior to this, training, coaches, masterminds, all the
Six
rest.
plus three, because I've been doing this business for 3 years, so it's been 9 years ish.
Yeah, it's a long journey, man. So talk to us about what you attribute your progression in your journey to. Is it consistency? Is it just showing up? What do you
But
think,
I
Joe?
mean, consistency is the main thing. But there's other qualities I needed to have. One of them is humility, to be able to take feedback, and I'm not great at that all the time. There were times where people would tell me what I was doing was wrong, and I was stubborn. But that's also the thing, is you need to have a balance between humidity. You need to be very humid and wet.
I just
You need to
got
have a
sweating on our brow, just having to have a
you can see
fan
a
on at all
shiny ass head.
times. Yeah.
Um, you need to have a balance between humility and stubbornness, because you need to be humble enough to hear when other people are saying, oh, you should be doing it this way, you're doing it wrong, because they might have some good advice. But you sometimes need to be stubborn enough to be like, no, you're wrong, I'm gonna do it my way. Because sometimes you need to. Like when I decided to I dropped out of college at one point. I had 1 year, and if I'm being honest, probably 3 semesters left before I graduated with computer science. I was going to go to computer science degree. My dad was paying all my expenses because he wanted me to focus on school. He wanted me to be able to just do well at school, do it quickly, get out and get my job, right? And he wanted me to be self-sustaining. And so he was like, you're focusing on school, you're getting this useful degree, I'm gonna pay all your expenses. I, at that point, decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and why not start that now? I didn't see a reason why I should do 3 more years of doing a degree I didn't like, and then do a few years of a job I didn't like. It didn't make any sense to me. So I was like, you know what? I'd rather not borrow $15,000 more to continue at Rutgers. I'm going to drop out now, travel the world, and then in the process, build businesses and become an entrepreneur. The instant I did that, my dad, understandably so, stopped paying for my bills. I didn't have a job. I didn't want a job. I ended up humbling myself and working at Walmart for a bit, which is not very fun. Um, this was around the time I was homeless. Actually, what prompted me to become homeless, because I didn't have enough income to pay for any sort of rent, even the cheapest of cheap, except for like a few months here and there. But I was, I, I was like, I had to be stubborn enough to be like, no, like you're gonna cut your like, if you don't think I'm doing the wrong thing. I had friends, family, my girlfriend at the time, who I broke up with because of this, well, and other things, um, and calling me and talking to me, being like, why are you doing this? This is stupid. You can't be doing this. You shouldn't do this. Finish college, get a job, and then do this. Like, why are you doing this now? It's the stupidest thing. You're gonna be homeless. You're gonna die on the streets. I had my mom when I decided to go to Colombia, because I wanted to travel and it was cheaper. I had my aunt and uncle call me and beg me not to, because they said that because I had some debts that were about to be charged off, I would be arrested because I was trying to flee the country, which is not how debts work in the United States. But and I think they knew that, but they were trying to, they were trying to, they're trying to save me in their minds. I had my mom call me and then get into a crash because she was so stressed worrying about me. She crashed her car. She totaled her car because she was worried about me going to Colombia. And I had to be like, I called her, she called me actually. And then, I hung up the phone and she told me that she's texting me like, oh my God, I crashed. I'm so worried about you. And even though my mom crashed her car, I had to continue. Like I had to be stubborn enough to be like, no, I'm going to fucking continue this. And even though when I was homeless, I would beg them to help me get a place to stay. And thankfully, I'm really grateful that my family did this. They were like, no, you have to learn on your own. If this is the path you choose, then you're gonna have to figure it out. And because they were just in their mind, I made a huge mistake, and I was gonna learn one way or the other. And once I came back to reason, they would support me again and reason, finishing college. And so I had to be stubborn enough to be like, no, I'm going to figure this shit out. And then I figured it out. And now they all stand behind me. They're all like, oh, this is our successful entrepreneur. Obviously, they're like, oh, we love him. He's so successful.
Oh,
And I love them. I know they're trying to help. I'm not mad at all.
yes.
In fact, I'm fucking glad that they didn't, because it tested me. It made me have to realize that how much did I want this to happen? And I became even more committed because I was stubborn as fuck. But you also need to be humble, because sometimes, like for instance, when I was like, this business isn't working for me. I'm going to spin up these 3 other businesses that will grow quickly, and then I'll finally make ends meet. And I had to be humble enough when people are like, when Cameron was like, bro, no, like just go all in on this thing. Like there's enough there, it's going to work. I had to be humble enough to be like, you know what, this thing I really want to do because it feels good, maybe they're right and I shouldn't do that. So you have to be stubborn enough to not listen to advice sometimes, but you also have to be humble enough to let go of your idea of what you want to do and listen to somebody else sometimes. And you also have to be wise enough to figure out which one to use. Do you be stubborn and just dig your heels in, or do you be humble and give up your thought process to listen to somebody else? You have to have both. And then, of course, you also have to be consistent. If you're doing something and you're not consistent, even if you do a lot here and there, you do a lot one day and then you like just barely do anything, and you do a lot another day, it's like that's not going to really move the needle. Might move the needle more on that one day, but over the long term, you're not going to succeed at anything. So I think those are the 3 main qualities that have led to my success. And I don't know if they're 100% universal, but I've seen them a lot in other successful people's lives as well.
Success tends to leave clues, and listening to you, we're reminded of some powerful universal principles. And one of them that I think you've just illustrated there really quite beautifully is the reminder that in life and in human progression, flexibility beats rigidity. The mighty oak tree blows over, snaps. The reed is able to come back to center. In taking feedback and having to endure some painful aspects of being quite firm and stubborn, but having the flexibility to understand that this is allowing me to grow internally and stay with your mission and course correct. You've demonstrated how now, as you say, your openness to knowing when to take feedback on board and when to stay firm, because it's allowed you to win several times. We see how the game is at a higher level, causing us to kind of evolve in our thinking, right? They say that your best thinking got you where you are. The Joe of today is more evolved, more mature, and able to add more value to the world and tell us more about the human condition and how to achieve these sorts of things. So this would be a useful moment for us to understand. Now we're about to finish quarter 4. And of course, 2024, I expect, is going to be a really solid year for your business. I expect it's going to see you make significant movements. You're in a good position now. You've built your reputation. You are widely considered to be one of the best in the world by most people who are really, really in the know would recognize you as undeniably world leading at this point. So now you've got the brand recognition. Now you're proven. Now you're a it's a kind of a rite of passage to get a shoot with Joe.
Mm-hmm.
It's You're really well
Mm.
positioned to really build things up now. What's your vision for
Thank you.
2024? What do you want to get done in 2024? Is there a particular direction you're going in, or is it a case of, well, this is working, I'm just going to ramp it up? I want to hear from you.
That's a really good question. I every year I have a day. It's actually something I got from Andy, from Kill Your Inner Loser. I can't shout him out enough. He's been an
Yeah.
amazing help for me in my life. Um, every single year he sits down and sets goals for the next year. I did this last year. One of the goals, there's 2 main goals for my business. I had revenue goals. One of them I hit way before I thought I would. The other one, it looks like I will nearly hit, but not quite, unfortunately. But I mean, who knows? I still have a month and a half left of the year, so I could change that. So of course, but there is a real possibility that that won't happen. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll do my best. And we'll see what happens. I don't like the idea that revenue is 100% in my control. My inputs are 100% in my control. The outputs are not. And so I can do all the inputs I want, but the outputs are not guaranteed. So, somebody might say, oh, you should have total accountability. If you want a certain revenue, just do what you need to do to get it. And I will do what I need to do to get it. But that doesn't mean that I can guarantee the outcome as well. And also, I don't like the idea of hustle, 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 hustle. I'm more about consistency and doing the high leverage things that I can consistently do without burning myself into the ground. Because there's no benefit in me doing all the work and then not being able to enjoy the result because I'm so burnt out, or to continue because then I'm not consistent, which is the real thing that matters. So I'd rather delay my success a little bit than work myself into the ground to get it now, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is I don't know exactly what my goals are next year because I want to take the time, probably do a mushroom trip first to get myself all clear, and then take the time to really sit down with myself for that day, at least a few hours that day, maybe go camping, do something where I can really get myself clear and thinking about next year. I'm making a huge change in my life today. It's in my personal life. I don't want to say too much, but it will open myself up to a lot better possibilities in the future. And next year is going to be freaking awesome. This year has been a huge success. With you, I've nearly doubled my business. Actually, I think I have doubled my business if I look at the numbers. But I've grown my business. I've become a lot more consistent. I just started 75 hard, and I've decided to do hard life, which is the 75 hard like times 4 throughout the year with like changes here and there.
Cool.
So I've become a man that loves hard things, and that's a new thing. So there's so much coming. I want to say one other thing. At the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that I'm starting to get brand recognition, and this is something I'm super grateful for. I want to contrast for listeners, if it's okay with you, Ravi. I want to contrast how people would treat me at first and how people treat me now with brand recognition. If you're cool with that.
I'd love to hear it.
So at first, I was doing I was doing the dating profile photography thing, and people would kind of be interested about that, and they would be like, oh, cool, this, that's a new niche. I never heard of that. That sounds interesting. And every now and then, maybe they would say something to somebody because it was just a unique thing, right? But say there's a Facebook group in Austin and somebody was like, hey, I want a dating profile photographer. Usually I wouldn't get a shout out on that, but maybe I'll get one. But like most people would talk about somebody else or a bunch of other different photographers, right? Then last year sometime, it's like still around 2 years into my business journey, people would start to ask about, oh, I want a dating profile photographer in like a Facebook group. Does anyone know somebody? Or I want to get, more matches on dating apps. It's been frustrating for me. Does anyone know somebody? Because there's a lot of Austin social groups where people just talk about things. And I work around the world. I've been to the UK recently. And I've been to Toronto and Canada and a lot of the US. And I've also been to I plan to go to other places as well. But at that time, I hadn't done too much traveling, and we're just talking about the Austin group, just to give you context. And I would get like 2 or 3 shout outs in the comments, like, oh, this guy, he's good. Here's his website, right? Now, this was just like amazing to me. A week ago or so, somebody would ask that question again in a social group, and there were 10 people. 10 people shouted me out, and there were only like 15 comments. And the other comments were just like photographers being like, I do headshots, I'll help you out. And there was like them advertising themselves. There were 10 people that shouted me out. 10. And I was like, oh my God, I was so grateful. I'm not saying this to brag, although it does feel good. I'm saying this because when you're consistent, when you network with people, when you value your relationships that you have with people, magic, and you do a good job and you have integrity, you do what you say you're going to do, people really gravitate towards that. And then also I've been posting about my successes as well for my own self and for other people on social media. And people see that. People see consistency, and they know I've been in business for 3 years. They've seen me post every day about my business. And so that gets people's attention. Not at first, it won't get people's attention at first. It took a year or 2 years for me to get anyone to shout me out. And now tons of people are shouting me out. And I had a client who's connected to a lot of dating coaches. He's a very successful dating coach for women, and he's connected to a lot of dating coaches for men. And he told me on our shoot, he said he hit up one guy. I believe it was, I might be wrong about this, but Chase Amante from Girls Chase. I would love to collaborate with you if you're watching this, Chase, or anyone who knows him. I would love to collaborate with him. And I think it was him. It was either him or Austin Summers. Both of them are dating gurus who are very successful in their space. This guy was in a group with him, and he hit him up and he was like, "Hey, have you heard of this guy?" And he was like, "Yeah, I love his stuff. Like I've seen him here and there. I love his stuff." And that made me kind of light up. I'm like, yo, like I didn't even know this. My content and my product is reaching people that have made a name for themselves helping guys with their dating life. And I didn't even know, like, he hasn't contacted me at all, which is totally fine. You know, he's got a lot of stuff on his plate, I'm sure. But and I'm happy to collaborate with you. Just hit me up. Like that, you know, in link in the description below or whatever is, you know, this is an email. Actually, I'll just tell you my work email, joe@datingunchained.com. So if anyone knows him, have him reach out to me. I would love to, you know, do some sort of collaboration. I'm sure we can make something happen. But it was just, you know, that's the kind of power that consistency has. And then also you doing what you say you're going to do, and also sharing it with the world consistently on social media. People will notice that, and people will gravitate towards it.
Joe, this is where, like, I have to say, it's quite remarkable. I I know in my own life, like the conversations that I'll have with people, right? That people will talk about, oh, okay, you're doing the shoot. Is Joe in the mix? Um, you seem to have, through like delivering a multitude of like exceptional client results and like really transforming. You seem to have yourself like almost not, because I guess it's a very gradual thing, but like, dude, you've showed up for so long. You've been so like consistent with actually solving this problem and understanding it at a level of deep, deep subject matter expertise. Because you're really successful in this domain yourself, Joe. You've helped other people become successful in this domain too. You are so deep in this world, right? And it's kind of curious that we say that part of being successful in business, it really is showing up, right? People eventually start to recognize you, right? If you show up. It took listening to you there. I've heard this number a lot. You know, the entrepreneurship is littered with these stories of people who consistently showed up, and then after a year, they're getting some of the quote unquote green shoots. We're seeing some people reach out, some people coming forward and saying, okay, it's kind of interesting. Year two, if you survive it, if you are able to get through, that's when you start to catch more people's interest and people see this guy's really going places. Now, moving into 2024, I think we're going to see a lot more of this for you, Joe. I think you're going to start to really um, make some significant exponential leaps. My prediction is, Joe, I think there's going to be some big collaborations underway. I think you're going to expand the team. I think there's going to be um, some really significant impact that your brand has. In some way, I think you're going to change the game. That's my prediction. Just given like your depth of commitment, I think there's a significant contribution of some sort you're going to make. For those who've listened to the podcast today and who are interested in you, interested in your journey, and want to follow the journey from here, how can we find you online? And importantly, how can we follow this story as it's being written?
Sure. Yeah. I'm super excited for you to join me on the journey. It's been cool. I create a lot of content to show where I'm at and where I'm going. One of the best place to follow me, if you go to my website, datingunchained.com, click on content and click on YouTube channel. You can follow me there. YouTube channel is going to be about how to build a life you love in all areas. right now I'm focusing on your love life, and that's where Dating Unchained comes in. So you'll have a lot of content about how to build your love life, but in the past and in the future, I'm going to create a lot of content about just sharing where I'm at and sharing entrepreneurship and also helping you build a life on all categories that you love. So datingunchained.com, click on content on the top bar and click on the YouTube channel. If you want to get your dating profile upgraded, if you want to get results, I had a client recently. I flew all the way out to Wales to work with him. He's not in the biggest city, and he paid double my travel fee because it was a lot extra for me to travel over there. He paid a lot more than other people do. And he was getting like 2 matches a month with girls he wasn't really attracted to. And even then, they wouldn't really meet up with him. But after our shoot, he just messaged me. He said, I can't keep up messaging all these matches. Like I'm letting some of these go because it's just too much for me. I'm getting like so many girls matching with me, and he's able to build a life that he loves. He's able to find girls that he loves, that he really likes spending time with, and having some awesome steamy time with, of course, too. And then that they like to be with him as well. And so I've gotten him to a place where he's abundant. He did, he did some work preparing for the shoot, but that's if you invest in a shoot with me, I'll get you results. So that's that same website, datingunchained.com. And you can check out all my websites, pricing's on there, book a call when you're ready, and I'll get you covered.
Joe, you are an IronWill legend. You're going to be in IronWill's Hall of Fame as one of the just fascinating clients that I work with whose journey, I mean, is still getting started. You said in our podcast today that you were going to be sitting down and following our mutual mentor Andy's advice and setting some goals for 2024. And when you do that, I'd love to learn what they're going to be. I'm going to share them on my socials because I want everyone to keep track of what you're doing. You're an ambassador for my thinking and my ideas and my deep belief in consistency. So when you do that, we want to celebrate and honor you and follow your progression. And the only other thing I'm gonna say, right, as you go into that, Joe, think really big and think ambitious and start to in my opinion, just think more big because you are incredibly good at what you do. You are, right? You become one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world, right? We think you are. That's coming from people with deep experience who do this stuff every day. Like it's an integral part of my life, right? And I've heard the same from other extremely credible people at the absolute cutting edge. So my only wish for you is for you to just think more magically and more expansive because I think in some way I do have this feeling. I think in some way you're going to change the game. I think you're going to do something quite significant. Whether it's this next year or the year after, it's going to come. And when it does happen, we're going to be celebrating you and honoring you again, brother. So thank you for your time today. This was a complete and utter pleasure. I'm going to put all the links to your socials below so people can follow the journey and learn more about you. And those who are interested, definitely reach out to Joe if you're looking to build a life of love, romance, intimacy, and human connection that you that makes you happy to be alive, then you need to speak to Joe about this, and he will be able to show you that regardless of where you are and where you may be and what your past may have been, abundance, options, and choice is genuinely possible for all people. You do not have to accept limitation. You do not have to accept that the outcomes that you may currently have or the ones that you've had in the past are what is going to be the future for you. We can all open our hearts and explore love and connection. And it's one of the true joys of my life. So I always show a lot of love and appreciation for people like Joe who do this really important heart-centered work. But for now, guys, Ravi, Iron Will, closing out another epic podcast, checking out for the evening. Thank you for listening. Speak to you guys soon.